Hi chess friends, today we are going to witness how a international master Mohan beats a Grandmaster Fedoseev. Mohan plays with white, Fedoseev is black. Mohan starts with e4, black plays c5, knight to f3, e6, the Sicilian defense, d4, c pawn takes d4 pawn, knight takes d4 pawn, a6, bishop to d3 square, bishop to c5, attacks the knight, knight to b3, counter attacks the bishop, bishop a7. This variation is called as queen to e2, knight to c6, bishop to e3. Mohan offers exchange of bishops. Bishop takes bishop on e3, queen takes bishop on e3. Mohan exchanges the bishops without damaging the pawn structure. Knight to f6, knight to c3. Now Mohan has the option to castle on both the sides. e5, preventing e5 by white. f3, preparing g4. d6, g4. Mohan starts attacking on the king side. Bishop to e6, h4, queen to c7 square. Now black has the option to castle on both the sides. Now both players castle on the queen side. King to b1, king to b8. It's mandatory to move the king to b file after castling on the queen side, where king will be safe. h5, h6, preventing any advance of h pawn. a3, knight to e7, g5, challenges the h5 pawn. H pawn takes d5 pawn, queen takes g5 pawn, rook to h6 square, preparing to bring the another rook to h8 square to win the h5 pawn. Knight to e2, preparing knight to g3 to protect the h5 pawn. Rook to g8, slightly better is rook d to h8 square, rook d g1, queen to d8, f4. Mohan wants to win a pawn by f pawn takes c5 pawn, d pawn takes c5 pawn, queen takes e5 pawn. Knight to c6, protects the e5 pawn. f5, attacks the bishop. Black's light color bishop don't have a good square, so it was exchanged with knight on b3. C pawn takes bishop on b3. White now has a doubled pawn weakness. Queen b6, goes after the b3 pawn. b4, moves it to safety. Queen to f2, knight to c3, queen to b6. Inaccuracy by black. Best move is queen to f4. Let's see the continuation. Queen to g2, knight to d4 square, rook to f1, queen to g4. After the exchange of queens, game is equal. Back to the position. Queen b6. Black wasted 2 moves by playing the queen to f7 and then back to b6 square. Bishop c4, attacks the f7 pawn. Knight to d8. Slightly better is to move the rook from g8 to h8 to exchange the f7 pawn for h5 pawn. Knight to d5. Knight takes knight on d5. Bishop takes knight on d5 and lands on the knight square. Rook g to h8 square. Queen takes g7 pawn. Rook 6 to h7. It's best to capture the h5 pawn with rook. Queen g4. Rook takes h5 pawn. Rook takes rook on h5. Rook takes rook on h5. If queen takes rook on h5, queen takes rook on c1 with check. King a2, queen g7, Black's queen comes to the queen side. White has a tiny advantage as the black's knight is not well placed compared to white's bishop. This advantage is not enough to win. Game will lead to draw. Back to the position. Rook c1. Best move is Queen g2. Controlling the g file and h2 square is more important. Rook h2. Now black's rook infiltrates into white's kingdom. Queen g3 attacks the rook. Rook e2 moves it to safety. Queen to c3 threatening queen to c8 check to win the knight on d8. After black queen moves from b6 square. King a7 was played. Not the best move as it gives the control of c8 square to white. Best move is queen d4. Exchanging the queens will lead to draw. Queen b3. Creating a battery to win the f7 pawn. f6. Moves it to safety. Rook to c8. Rook to h2. It's better to play queen to g1 check and try to get any perpetual check. Back to the position. Rook to h2. Queen c3. Rook to h7. a4. Preparing a5. Knight f7. This position is completely unplayable for black. All continuation is losing for black. Alternate move is also no good, like knight c6. Let's see the continuation. Bishop takes knight on c6. B pawn takes bishop on c6. Rook takes c6 pawn. Queen g1 check. King to a2. Queen to d4. After the exchange of queens, both pawns on d file will be captured by rook, and white will create a passed pawn on b file or f file, which will win the game. Back to the position. Knight f7 loses the game faster. The problem with knight f7 is that it goes away from the action side and blocks the rook from defending the b pawn. a5 attacks the queen. If black tries to exchange the queens by queen d4, then queen c7 followed by queen b8 will end the game. So black played queen g1 check. King to a2. Knight to g5. Rook to g8. Preparing queen to c8 followed by queen to a8 checkmate. Knight takes e4 pawn. Rook takes queen and g1 was played, which is winning. Pause the video and find a faster way to win the game. Compliments on finding the move. The move is queen to c8. Knight to c3 check. It will be a blunder if b pawn takes knight on c3. Then both the rook and the queen can continuously check the white's king and the game will end in draw. So white has to capture the knight with queen. Queen d4. Queen c8. Queen takes bishop on d4 square with check. b3. Rook to h2 check. King to a3. Black is out of checks. Black has to give up the queen to prolong the game by queen takes rook on g8. Otherwise, queen a8 will checkmate the black's king. Back to the position. Rook takes queen on g1. Knight takes queen on c3 with check. B pawn takes knight on c3. Rook e7. King to b3. e4. Bishop to e6 square. Blocks the rook from defending the e4 pawn. Rook h7. Preparing rook to h4 to defend the e4 pawn. Rook g4. e3. Rook to e4. Rook to h3. King c4. b5 check. King to d4 and black resign on move 50. because black will lose all the pawns one by one and white's f pawn will promote to queen. So black resigned. If you like the video, share, subscribe and like. Thank you. Post your suggested games in the comment section.